Hi, this is George with 573 Medicine, and in this video we're going to be discussing epithelial tissue. So let's get started. As a brief overview, there are four types of tissue which make up the human body: epithelium or epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue, and nervous tissue. And in this video we're going to be focusing on epithelium. So let's get started. Epithelium refers to a thin layer of tissue which is made up of epithelial cells that line individual organ surfaces, structures, and cavities. And this type of tissue has many functions, including serving as a barrier, aiding in the secretion of hormones, sweat, and mucus, as well as the absorption of nutrients. So epithelial cells are going to be characterized based upon how they look. We have squamous epithelium, which looks like the scales of a fish, cuboidal epithelium, which looks like a cube, and columnar epithelium, which looks like a column. And so epithelial cells can also be further described as simple, which is a single layer of cells which makes up that sheet, as well as stratified. So multiple layers of cells are going to create that sheet of tissue. Next, let's discuss the characteristics of epithelium. Epithelial cells have polarity, meaning that there is both an apical and a basal surface. So this pink line right here is called the basement membrane, and this is a proteinaceous sheet which separates the epithelium from the connective tissue, which is deep to the epithelium. There's also the apical surface, and so things that are closer to the basement membrane are considered the basal surface. And then on the other side, so the other pole right here, which is the opposite side of the basement membrane, this is our apical surface. So apex means peak, and this faces the most superficial surface. So in the context of hollow organs like the gut, this is actually referred to as luminal. So the apical surface in non-hollow organs, and in hollow organs, it's going to be luminal. So let's pretend like this is the esophagus, for instance. Right there, as if you're looking into the esophagus, this is going to be considered luminal, and it's also apical because it's the most superficial, but in the context of hollow organs, you wouldn't use the word apical, you would use the word luminal. Next, let's discuss pseudostratified columnar epithelium. So the word pseudo means fake, and so this is a layer of columnar epithelium which looks like it is multiple cell layers deep in the sheet. But in actuality, the amount of cells that make up each layer of this sheet is only one. There's only one cell that's going to actually be touching the basement membrane, and there aren't cells that are kind of stacking on top of one another, which would make it stratified. So it looks like it's stratified, but it's not. And the reason why this pseudostratified columnar epithelium looks like there are columnar cells stacked on top of one another is because these nuclei are placed in a sort of erratic way, and it looks like these cells are stacked on top of one another. But in actuality, there aren't multiple layers of cells. Each cell that makes up this sheet is touching the basement membrane. And so you're going to find the pseudostratified columnar epithelium in the respiratory and digestive tract. So let's look at an example. This is an H&E slide of the trachea. So the trachea is part of the lower respiratory tract. So here's your nose, and from the nasal cavity, it'll go into the pharynx. Air will move into the pharynx to the larynx, then down into our lower respiratory tract, into the trachea, where it'll then bifurcate into the primary bronchi. And this bifurcation is also known as the carina. And so this H&E slide sort of looks like there are multiple layers of columnar cells that are making up this epithelial sheet. But in actuality, it's only one layer of cells. And this is kind of just something that you have to look at more and more, and then you'll develop that intuition. And another thing is, this is a good time to introduce a structure called cilia. And these function, so these hair-like projections, these function to provide defense against debris in the respiratory tree. So this prevents things like pollen and allergens from actually entering the respiratory airway And so that's why it's called ciliated, because it has cilia, pseudostratified because it looks like it's stratified, but it's not, columnar because it looks like a column, and epithelium because it's epithelial tissue. Another word that you might come across is called endothelium, and this is a type of simple squamous epithelium. So it's simple squamous because one, it's squamous, it looks like the scales of a fish, and two, it's simple because this sheet is only one cell layer deep. And so it's simple squamous epithelium, but it's specific to blood vessels, and we'll talk about that in another lecture. But the type of simple squamous epithelium, which lines, so this is a hollow organ, it would be called the luminal surface, is called simple squamous, is called endothelium, which is a type of simple squamous epithelium. So that's it for this video. If you like the video, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and feel free to email us anytime at realtalkmeded@gmail.com for any comments, questions, or concerns.